It is a summer Friday for the Foxboro Faithful. Training camp is still a couple of weeks away, but that doesn't mean there is any rest for the wicked diehards out there in Patriots Nation. You got Fitzy. You got the real John Lyons. And we got you for a Patriots Friday summer mailbag dish of Six Rings and Football Things.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. It's all about winning, all right? Win on three. 1, 2, 3, win!
Celebrating the heroes of Foxboro's past.
And with a good block. Look at Grover. Touchdown all the way. Watch the block of number 73, John Hanna.
The champions of the dynastic era.
Adam Vinatieri booms a 48-yard field goal, and the Patriots are Super Bowl champions.
The Patriots of tomorrow.
We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. We're going to earn the right to be here every single day.
And the fans whose faith never wavers. This is Six Rings and Football Things.
We open with a clip of what I consider to be the lamest celebration in the history of championships, something that got me in a lot of trouble online this week, John Lyons, as all the Mick Ultra and all the Andre Brute that was available to your new NBA champions, the, shall we say, non-devil juice drinking Oklahoma City Thunder, in that parade and a half that they had in OKC this week, went unconsumed. They were trolled wildly across the socials, myself included, and the clapback that I got from the mocktail NAB gummy eating nation, oh, they're so brave, oh, they're so clean, they're so healthy, they're so fresh, was truly unbelievable. So we open with that today on Six Rings and Football Things, the Friday Summer Mailbag Edition. John Lyons, Nick Fitzy Stevens here with you. John, did you see the lack of celebration that the Oklahoma City Thunder put on? And were your senses offended by that, just like mine were?
So I wouldn't say I was quite offended, but it gave me like Ivan Drago vibes, just like if he dies, he dies, just kind of the nonchalantness of how dominant they were this year. By the way, fantastic NBA Finals. I know this is Six Rings and Football Things. That was a fantastic NBA Finals. And I know it's a mailbag, so if you want to send Celtics second apron questions too, we're happy to answer those as well. But yeah, I did notice that, Fitzy, and I guess the good people of Oklahoma City will have plenty of extra Mick Ultras and Bud Lights to consume that weren't used during the celebration.
Yeah, just here are the rules. There are none, okay? The one rule of Friday Mailbag Club is that everybody talks about Friday Mailbag Club. You want to ask about the Red Sox? You want to ask second apron questions? You want to pay tribute to the Zinger? You want John Lyons to break down Celtics second-round draft pick Amari Williams, the wingspan-centric rebound machine from Kentucky? That's exactly what we're here for. And, of course, we have questions related to your New England Patriots that you, the good people of Six Rings, Pats Nation, and Foxboro Faithfuls, have sent in. Johnny, just give me a quick vibe check before we get rolling with the questions. How, with everything you've seen from OTAs and mini camps, everything you've read about from Mike Reese columns, things you've listened to on WEEI and more, how are you feeling a few weeks out prior to camp? Is your confidence higher, lower, or are you kind of just like staying the same?
Yeah, well, I'm feeling a heck of a lot better about them than I felt this time last year, right? I feel better about the coaching staff. I feel better about the starting quarterback. I feel a little bit better about the offensive line, though there's still some questions there, as we've discussed. I feel better about the defense. Heck, I even feel better about the special teams. So I feel a lot better about them than I did a year ago. I feel about the same as I did, before OTAs, before minicamp. And I will say that, yes, I feel better about them than I did a year ago, but there's still some significant questions that they're going to have to address. We talked about this in our Six Rings episode earlier this week when we listed our top 5 players, not named Drake May, coming up in training camp. But we'll also talk about it today. So I do feel much better than I did a year ago, but I still say that there's some significant questions that they're going to have to answer, which they can, but it's just things we need to watch for.
Yeah, I saw a little clip earlier this week of Ninko on with Jules and Gronk on the games with names, or it could have been dudes on dudes or dudes on games or names with dudes. And Ninkovich was sort of preaching
Guys with
like,
names.
yeah, guys with names.
Yeah.
That's us, actually. That's
Yeah.
our pot here.
Guys with
But
names.
Ninko was preaching like, hey, let's go ahead and just pump the brakes on this whole like Patriots winning the AFC East. Buffalo is still there. 10 wins should be the ceiling or the height of our expectations. 11, 12 wins seems almost absurd given how many wins they had each of the last 2 seasons. Those 2 4-win seasons got one of the greatest coaches and one of the worst coaches in NFL history dismissed from the position. So why don't we just let Mike Vrabel's team, with all of its new leadership and all the new players, be it the free agency, the draft, and beyond, let's just let it evolve accordingly without putting the pressure. That's one of the things I want to say first and foremost. Let's not put the pressure on ourselves with elevated expectations to have this Patriots team be at least a 10-win team. If they win 8, 9 games, awesome, massive improvement. The turnaround is legit. If they win 10, holy shit, they might actually have a chance at sniffing the wild card. Anything above that, I mean, that's a gravy train with biscuit wheels, Johnny. But like, it's absurd for people to just be thinking like, nah, a lot, like you saw how soft the schedule is. You saw what kind of players they have. They're gonna have, I'll get right to one of our first questions right here. Mike Reese tweeted this out earlier this week, John. Marcellus Wiley believes that the New England Patriots have the second most improved defense in the NFL, just behind the Denver Broncos. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think they're up there for sure. And Milton Williams is the headliner, and I get it, but I look at a couple other guys, right? The return of Christian Barmore, who had limited action last year. That guy has shown an ability to be an elite pass rushing defensive tackle. He can hold up okay against the run as well. So if he's fully back, I think that is a huge deal because, frankly, and I know this might sound a little weird, I think he's a better player than Milton Williams if they're both healthy and playing. And he's played more snaps to boot. And right, Milton Williams, we've gotten some questions about this, so I'm sure we'll address later, but only 50% of the snaps last year, whereas Barmore, I think, is a guy that has shown, again, prior to his injury, he can play more than that. And the other guy's Carlton Davis. I think what they're going to be able to do at corner with Carlton Davis and with Christian Gonzalez is they're going to be able to lock up multiple guys on the outside. Now, look, there is a difference. Gonzalez is an all-pro level player. Carlton Davis is a very good player. I don't think he's an all-pro level player. He's very good.
No, he's pretty damn good, and he's coming from a system where they played the most man coverage last year in Detroit as well. So he's ready to take on the best of the best in the AFC East, the AFC, and NFL overall.
Yeah, and I think you look at a defense, to have a legit number 2 corner is an extremely valuable thing to have. I mean, you look at the Patriots defense historically when they've been good. They've always had a great corner, whether it was Ty Law, Darrelle Revis, Malcolm Butler, Stephon Gilmore, et cetera, et cetera. But even all those teams had really good number 2 corners, right? Whether it was Otis Smith and Tyrone Poole, Brandon Browner, right? Like Logan Ryan, like there was always a good number 2 corner. And I think that's extremely valuable. And what that's going to allow them to do coverage wise, they're going to play some zone, but I think they're going to play a bunch of man. They're going to be able to play more physical at the line of scrimmage, which means they're going to be able to create more pressure and do more exotic things up front. So I think, look, I don't know if they're number 2 most improved, but they are significantly better than they were a year ago. Without looking across the NFL, I'd say they're probably top 5, at least, most improved defense.
Yeah, and to your point on your guy, Carlton Davis, who you included in your 5 Patriots not named Drake made it their most important coming into training camp, he was paid like and is coming from where he used to have to be a number 1 corner. Now, making $19 million a season, he gets to come in and he's the number 2 cornerback. Christian Gonzalez, who is ticketed for first-class Excella car on his way to NFL superstardom and possibly all-pro status, right up there with Patrick Surtain as a top NFL corner. He's going to draw the ones. He's going to get the toughest assignment every week whenever they play man, which means Carlton Davis is going to be covering 2s and 3s, depending on if he's in the outside or the 2 on that other team is in the slot, which means he's going to excel. We should probably potentially, John, recalibrate our expectations for a healthy Carlton Davis this year, because he may feast on the 2s and 3s.
And one other thing, too, that I think they can do, and they did this a lot when they had Darrelle Revis, and they did it with other corners, is sometimes they would put Revis on the number 2 receiver and completely erase him from the game, and then double the number 1 with Browner and, say, McCourty over the top, or whoever the case may have been week to week. That's something like Davis is good enough. You can do that. Like, you can put Gonzo, and they're not going to do this every week. You're right that most of the time Gonzo will have the number 1 guy, but there might be a week where, let's say Miami, when they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Hill is more explosive, but maybe you say, hey, we'll put Gonzo on Waddle and Davis on Hill with a safety over the top, right? Like there's different things they can do when they have two really good corners like that, especially one as good as Gonzalez. So I think that's going to be something that week to week is going to be kind of fun to watch. So how exactly do they employ these corners and how do they match them up?
Right. Although, Tyreek Hill has said one and many a time on social media that he loves the game of Christian Gonzalez. So dare
Shut
I
him
say,
down in that week 2 game in 2023.
it was and it had a hell of a pick as well. It was his first NFL pick as well. All the popcorn that I have not consumed watching Javon Baker, I've actually saved. It got kind of stale, kind of like it does at the drive-in on Cape Cod, but that's okay. I'll still eat stale popcorn. And I have it ready for my Tyreek Hill Gonzo matchup. Now, you mentioned Milton Williams. Another question that we got, John, was regarding Milton Williams, who I did see a very impressive video of this week. And I know you're not supposed to believe everything you see on social media. Fitzy, you fraud. You always fall for all the hype videos. Sorry. But I did watch Milton Williams casually tight benching 405 this week. I think he looks like he's primed for a pretty damn good season. Mike Vrabel obviously believes as well. One of our listeners shared this one. How worried are you that Milton Williams' conditioning will not allow him to play the more than 50% of defensive snaps he'll need to justify his payday and be a significant contributor to this reconfigured defense?
Yeah, it's certainly something to watch. Like, I don't know if I'd put it as a major concern, maybe lowercase c concern there, because I think there's two elements of this. One is he played less than 50% of the snaps last year in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is he was playing alongside at least one future Hall of Famer in Jalen Carter and also Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat. He had a great defense all around him. They had Vic Fangio coordinating that defense. So, in addition to playing more snaps, there's also going to be more pressure on him. And I think that's going to be a big part of this as well. So that's something to watch in training camp. How does he look by the time they get to their joint practice on August 6th? Is he still looking great? How does he look by week 7 or 8, right? There's different waypoints I think we can use to measure that because look, if he goes out Fitzy in week 2 and he plays 75% of the snaps, we're all going to be excited. But can he still do that in week 7, week 9, week 15, right? Like those are the things I think that are worth paying attention to because if he can do it, all of a sudden you have a defensive front with him and Barmore and Keon White, who I'm a big believer in, and Anthony Jennings, right? But if he has trouble doing that, you still don't have a ton of depth at defensive tackle, right? Like that to me is one thing. So I think it's a great question, right? And it's something that I think he's trying. I think he can get there, but frankly, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, but I also feel like this is not a case of this is not going to be a case of Milton Williams like I got that big payday. Now it's time to go hands behind head, feet up on the coffee table, and be chomping on a big old dog rocket with a bottle of celebratory bubbles by his side. I think this guy wants to prove that it was not a fluke last year in Philadelphia, that he can be a leader here, and march his way towards greatness again in Foxborough. He got a massive payday up front, but there's still a lot of money to be earned on that 4-year, $104 million deal as well. Looks to me like he's doing everything. And of course, reports from training camp as well were that he was kind of like not dogging it, but not going full throttle. And he was outpacing all the defensive linemen during the sprints and the drills and had energy to spare. And Vrabel said, no. We paid you to come in and be a leader. These guys need to aspire to be as fit, ready, and dominant as you. So I want you going full throttle, 24/7, 365. All right, we got our first question in the comments, Johnny. David DeMuth, who will be the biggest surprise of the season on your New England Patriots?
It's a great question, and my instinct is to stay Travion Henderson because I think he's going to be really exciting. But I don't know, Fitzy, if that will be a big surprise per se. I look at Craig Woodson. I think that's going to be a guy that's going to play more than people are expecting. That's going to surprise some people at how good he is, and his versatility stands out. He played a lot of free safety while he was at Cal, but he also played box safety. He played a little bit of slot corner as well, so they're going to be able to move him all over the place, and maybe they'll settle in on a permanent position. But that's a guy to me that I think we're going to sit here in maybe October, November and say, wow, Craig Woodson's playing more than I thought he would, and he's pretty good. Now, he's not going to be I think the rookie star that maybe Travion Henderson and the exciting player that Travion Henderson. And when we talk about their defense, it's Gonzalez, it's Davis, it's Milton Williams, it's Barmore, right? But I think he's going to be a guy they're going to sit there and say, wow, this guy's playing more than we thought he would. And he's playing pretty well. And I think that's going to be a pleasant surprise by, the middle or so of the season.
Yeah. I'm going to go with I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball because we continue talking so much about the defense because we expect the defense to be top 10 to carry the team until the offense gets its act together. Nobody is saying that this guy is going to reach all pro levels, be at the Pro Bowl games, or be an immediate week 3 fantasy roster ad, although I think that would be excellent. I'm going to give Kyle Williams a chance. Okay. I'm going to give the guy that I've dubbed the timeline king a chance to be the most pleasant surprise. Now, can somebody really be the most pleasant surprise if everybody's talking about him being a sleeper on a team? The answer is yes. Want to know why? Because the receiver position has been such an absolute sieve, hole, pit, tire fire, medical waste disaster. It has been God. There are not enough descriptives. There are not enough metaphors. There are not enough stupid slang and expressions to be able to describe how bad the receiver position has been. I mean, when we're left pining for freaking Jacoby Myers and dude's good.
Took the words out of my mouth. The last time they had good receiver play was 2021 with Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers. And even then it wasn't elite, but it's just the last time it was pretty good.
All right, here you go. John, this is the most perfect follow-up question to that before we get back to our mailbag questions. From the Department of course, this is New England. Rob Henderson watching live on Facebook as we record the latest Six Rings and Football things. From the glasses half empty department, who will be the biggest bust on these Patriots? Oh, God. Just side note, New England, chef's kiss. You are you and never stop being you.
Thanks for taking my call, right? Love it. The guy I look at, and I don't know if this would qualify as a bust, but I look at Austin Hooper, and he made some good catches last year. He had a rapport with Drake May, but I wonder if in this offense, they're going to try to lean on some of the younger guys more. When I say younger guys, like Demario Douglas in his 3rd year, Travion Henderson is a rookie, Stephon Diggs when he comes back, and obviously they'll have Hunter Henry as the starter. So I could see Austin Hooper's role really diminishing this year, and maybe him being a guy that, he's just doesn't have much of I don't think he'll necessarily be a training camp cut per se, but I think he'll be a guy that maybe we look at is a disappointment. And another guy to keep an eye on this, and I hate to say this, Kyle Duggar. He's a guy, he did not have a good season last year. He had an injury during the season last year, so maybe that's part of it, but we'll see. He's nearing the end. So he's got 2 years left on his contract, I think, but there's an out after this year in his contract where the team would end up having that much dead money. So, I mean, and they drafted Craig Woodson again, as I mentioned before, for a reason. I wouldn't be shocked if Kyle Duggar, maybe what we saw last year, he's not quite that bad, but maybe he's unfortunately trending in that direction. I hope I'm wrong on that, but I think Hooper's the main guy that we're going to see a diminished role.
Hard to disagree on Hooper because I thought he was a gentleman and he was a solid middle-class NFL contributor last year, made the big catches when he needed to, didn't have a case of the dropsies, was always where he needed to be. Not spectacular, not really a disappointment, just one of those guys you build a football team around, and he seems to be in the Drake May circle of trust. By the way, we're also not talking a lot about Drake May this week because we decided to give Drake May conversations a honeymoon, just like the actual man and his wife and Michael May are on right now. I'm going to go with, and it kills me to say this because he's been such a pleasant surprise as one of the elite members, of the 6th round Michigan football draft club. Sadly, I'm going to go with Mike Onwenu because I've heard he didn't have a great season last year. Been very up and down since he got paid. And I heard he's not in great shape by any stretch of the imagination. And if Mike Vrabel and if Doug Marrone see that he comes in out of shape and he's got other guys that are in better shape, that are faster, meaner, nastier, and hungrier than Mike Onwenu, then if we're told, John, that entitlement is out of the building and we're going to fight every day to earn the right to play football and represent this team and these fans, I could see Mike Onwenu looking at himself as on the way out unless he gets himself in shape.
Yeah, and that would, that'd be disappointing to me as someone, he's the best 6th round pick for Michigan they've ever had, right? Mike Onwenu, I would think.
Oh, 10 million, 10, duh.
But the guy to watch connected to that, and I'll just say this because you and I talked about this around draft time, is Jared Wilson, the center they drafted out of Georgia. And I think he could be the center of the future. He's actually my favorite draft pick they made. I know I'm an offensive line sicko, but he's so athletic, and he ran a 4.8 40. He can play guard. So if they get into a situation where Bradbury's okay at center and they have questions about Onwenu, I think that's the guy that could maybe kick over. So to your point, I think Onwenu, if he's not in shape, which was an issue last year, then I think that's something that maybe he could be an unfortunate surprise.
Yeah, I would hate if that was the case, but we're just answering the question that the good people put out there while we're doing the pod. All right, back to the questions from the listeners. Okay, here you go. Right here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. At Bellino Z posted this on the X, and I thought I would get your take on this as well. Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end for the New York Football Giants, has recently been put, or allegedly, according to the reportage, on the block. New England Patriots, obviously, you can't say stacked along the defensive line because we haven't seen this reconfigured defense that Marcellus Wiley believes could be the second most improved in the NFL play yet, Johnny. So Kayvon Thibodeau, New York Giants, underwhelming but still talented defensive end. Yay or nay, you in or out on maybe making a move for him?
I'm in for a mid to late round pick. I'm not going to spend more than that on him. And this is a guy, he was a top 10 pick, but there were questions in college about his motor, his intensity, and the talent was always there. And so for the Giants, if they're still having some of those same questions, I don't know if I'm not going to spend a premium amount of capital on a guy like that. And I think this front four, and again, it's Williams and Barmore, the headliners. I think Keon White's going to be really good this year. I think Anthony Jennings is a solid, dependable player. You have Harold Landry too. You drafted Braden Swinson. Obviously, he needs some development, but I think you have enough there where you don't have to extend yourself for a guy that maybe has some questions about his intensity level, his consistent effort level that he's had going all the way back to college.
Yeah, he's never quite it seems like he's been on the doorstep, adjacent to success, the precipice, all synonyms for he's been really close to popping and becoming a force, but he hasn't. Everyone knows he's super smart. He also wants to remind you that he's a super smart, hyper articulate, next level new wave of NFL players. It just hasn't happened now. And with Abdul Carter stepping in and being I can't imagine there wouldn't be a world where you could have multiple, potential Pro Bowl level defensive ends. The Giants are going to suffer offensively again this year outside of obviously, I don't know, Scattaboo Neighbors and either Dangerous or Jackson Dart. I'm not going to say they're going to make noise.
If Jackson Dart is okay, they could be okay. But yeah, I'm not trusting Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know why they'd want to move on, but if they do, would you? If you had a chance, what's he got? A year or two left on his rookie?
If it was like a 4th or 5th round pick, I would do it. Anything higher than that, I wouldn't.
I'd question the 3rd because that's what you got back for moving on from Judon. It feels a little high considering he's never really popped like that. I'd do it for a 4th as well. Okay, our next question, John, actually comes with a video clip. Let's roll this in from the aforementioned Guys and Dudes and Names and Whatnot podcast.
QB besides Brady would you want starting for us?
Josh Allen. I love his game. It reminds me of myself at the quarterback position.
You're going Josh Allen.
That was a no-brainer for me. That was the first quarterback that popped up in my head.
I would not mind having Josh Allen with our offense. I would love Josh Allen, but I'd love to have Burrow.
I can't argue with that choice.
I mean, you would love to have Mahomes. Our offense is a little different. There's a little more drop back pass. I don't know. I mean, Mahomes pretty good too, but I think Burrow, I don't want someone running as much as Mahomes on those 3rd downs. I want them thrown because I want those 3rd downs.
Okay, so on Dudes this week, Gronk and Edelman debated which other quarterback besides Brady, and of course we're leaving Drake May out of it because he's not established himself as a legacy QB yet, and those aforementioned top dogs in the AFC are. So I'd love to know, John, if given a chance, and everyone relax, ew, gross, Drake May's the new Josh Allen. I wouldn't want to see any of them in Foxborough. Shut up. Of course you would. Any of us, if Josh Allen or Joe Burrow said, I'm never playing another down for either the Bills or the Bengals, I'm demanding a trade to the Patriots today, you would move heaven and earth and Gillette and every available 99 restaurant to get these friggin' guys into Foxborough. So who would you want as your QB, not named Drake May or Tom Brady?
So the real answer is I would want to go back in time and have them draft Lamar Jackson in 2018, and then Bill Belichick could still be here, and you'd be a good playoff team every year. Right?
All right, that's fine. This is your podcast too, brother.
So I would say, though, if I had to pick one guy, it would be Joe Burrow. And I think that the reason for is the structure of McDaniel's offense. I think he would fit really well in that. He's developed a rapport with a bunch of different wide receivers. And my thing about Lamar Jackson, I would put Josh Allen in this category too, because they're not run heavy quarterbacks, but
Mhm.
because they do run and they're physical. I think Joe Burrow could have a little bit of a longer career than them. And Burrow can run, right? We've seen it a few times, but I still would look at Burrow as maybe he has 3 or 4 extra good seasons. And Josh Allen at his peak is an MVP. Lamar Jackson at his peak is an MVP. Burrow's in that neighborhood, and I think he would probably give you an extra 2 or 3, maybe 4 seasons on the back end of the career.
All right. Very funny comment. Joe Kocha, the third regular here with Six Rings and Football Things. Burrow looks like Ellen DeGeneres pregame and John Elway in the game. What a wild transformation. Listen, I will never, ever slander the Ice King of the AFC North.
He
Well,
got the Bengals to a Super Bowl. I mean,
Dude,
that's
Joe
he went
Burrow
into
is
Kansas City. Like, that's something too. No disrespect to Josh
Yeah.
Allen. Burrow's gone into Kansas City and
Burrow's
won an
been to a
AFC
freaking
championship.
Super Bowl. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do people discount this?
Even Lamar Jackson, my guy, he hasn't been to a Super Bowl. He's
Mhm.
lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs a bunch.
I love Josh Allen. It's not like I'm dying for the Bills Mafia to win a Super Bowl, but if there were another team in the AFC, just because that franchise, that city has suffered for so long, I would not begrudge Buffalo winning a Super Bowl. Only if a guy like Josh Allen, who I respect the game of, he married one of my favorite actresses as well, Haley Steinfeld. She was the GOAT in the Coen Brothers True Grit. Go back, watch it. You're welcome. I know these are the details most people don't give a flying Foxboro about, but that's fine. It's our pod, Johnny. I love Josh Allen's game. I think the guy is a gamer. I think he's a winner. He's awesome. He always leaves it out there on the line. But the Ice King of the AFC North, Joe Burrow, like I said, like you pointed out, been to a Super Bowl already.
Won a national
before.
championship in college, too.
And last year, I'd like to remind everybody when they get off to that torpid, sleeping sloth start in Cincinnati, like Zach Taylor does every year. Hopefully somebody will wake him up and remind him the season starts September 8th this year. Joe Burrow, with a bum thumb and a team that was asleep at the wheel through September, went on a run last year that had him almost primed and ready to set the record for. He threw 45
I
touchdown
think
passes.
he would have
last
won the
year.
MVP if they made the playoffs, I think.
He's
Really?
effing awesome.
Yeah.
There's no other quarterback I would want in Foxborough or on any football team. Joe Burrow,
And if you can make the Bengals
favorite
good,
player outside of Patriot Nation.
that's something. You can make the Bengals a good team. That's something.
All right, that is a perfect walkaway line. If you can make the Bengals something, that's worth talking about. Good job. All right, this is, of course, the Six Rings and Football Things Friday Summer Mailbag Edition with at the real John Lyons, Lyons, and your old pal Nick Fitzy Stevens at Fitzy GFY. Going through your questions from the internet mailbag, and so much more. Let's see. I think we have another one right here for you. Let's see right here. Hold on one second. Oh, here we go. The aforementioned Joe Kocha, watching live on Facebook as we record, wants to know, John, do you believe we have enough to stop run-heavy teams? That's my biggest concern with this defense heading into 2025.
Yeah, and I think it's my biggest concern about their defense, too. I don't know if they have quite enough to stop it, at least not yet. And maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe Milton Williams will be better than I think he's going to be against the run. Maybe Keon White. But I look at their defense, and there's really only 2 guys right now that I say, hey, that guy's a really good run defender and I'm confident in. One is Anthony Jennings, who I think does a terrific job setting the edge in the run game. Outside of the Arizona
Mr.
game,
Underrated Patriot, pardon my interruption, as they say on ESPN, maybe the most underrated member of the Pats overall, let alone the defense, Johnny. Great point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think outside of the Arizona game last year, the other 16 games or whatever, he was tremendous at setting the edge in the run game. And the other guy's Robert Spillane, who I think is a really good run defender. But beyond that, I have questions, right? Like, I think Duggar and Peppers are pretty good run defenders, but they're way back at safety, right? Your corners aren't going to be as involved in the run game. And your linebacking core behind Spillane, I mean, Tavai's hurt right now, and I think he's an average player anyway. And there's not a lot of depth there. And same thing at defensive tackle, like Joshua Farmer, there's a lot to like there, but I want to see some more consistency from him. He's a rookie as well. So I think there's real questions about that. And this is a team that last year 23rd in the league in run defense. Don't forget when they were in London and Jacksonville ran the ball, 19 straight times against them. How about when the Colts had a 19-play drive plus a 2-point conversion to win that
God.
game late in the season?
So many moments, John, that we wanted to forget last year.
I know.
Painful, please.
And I bring it up because there was time, and this goes back to, by the way, this goes back to 2022, especially 2023 under the previous regime. There were a lot of times where they got pushed around in the run game, and I hated to see it, but it's just a fact. Like, they got pushed around a lot in the run game. And those two examples I just gave from last year were the most glaring examples, but it happened quite a bit over the last 3 years. So that's my biggest concern with the defense. I look right now, Jennings and Spillane are the only two guys that I can sit here on June 27th and say, that guy's a good run defender and I'm confident in him. Not saying the others can't do it, but I just haven't, I got to see it. I just haven't seen it yet.
You had guys like Daniel Aquale playing twice as many minutes as he had ever played, twice as many snaps, rather, excuse me. We're not talking basketball, we're talking football here. Yeah. You had a disengaged Devon Godchaux, an incredibly frustrated Keon White, and out of position Jelani Tavai. Yeah, that defense was a mess on purpose last year, or at least not by design, but within reason as well. Let me just throw this one out at you real quick, John.
Seattle ran all over them when they needed to. Sorry, I'm just going back.
I know, like they were up early in that game, and then backup running back in Seattle, not Kenneth. Not Kenneth.
I forget. I remember it happening.
Zach, what's his name? Yeah, he's super. It's great passing back as well. Yeah, he ran all over the Pats in the second half of that game. And that Indianapolis game, Barmore getting double teamed with the illegal chop block on the 2-point conversion by Richardson, disgusting. Between Kevon Chasen, who they signed in free agency, Swinson, Harold Landry, Keon White, Anthony Jennings, who do you believe of those 5 aforementioned defensive ends will lead the team in sacks this year?
I think it's Keon White. And I think your starters are going to be Keon White and Jennings, and Landry and Swinson and Chason are going to rotate around with them. And I expect Vrabel to do a pretty good job of kind of rotating those guys all across. But you look at Terrell Williams' defense, it's a lot of upfield penetration, single gap stuff, because traditionally, right, in the Belichick system, and I think DeMarcus Covington did this a lot too, a lot of 2-gap type stuff where it's like you're eating up space and you're not being quite as aggressive after the passer. I think we're going to see a difference there. So I think you're going to see, a Matthew Judon 12-sack-ish season from a guy like Keon White. So I think it's going to be Keon White, because I also think, and I'll just last point on this, Keon White's a guy you can play on all 3 downs. Whereas Landry, he can defend the run, but I think he's still better as a pass rusher. Swinson needs to develop. Jennings is a run defender first. White is the one guy to me that I have high confidence in playing all 3 downs.
By the way, it was Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet was the running back for Seattle as well. Bold choice by you, Johnny, to go with Keon White.
They'll kick him inside at times and run him at guards, which I think will get him a sack or 2 during the season as well.
It's a tough call. Chase, people like I've heard good things out of the free agent signing, Kevon Chasen. Everyone thinks Swinson is another one of the steals of the draft. Keon White could be poised to have the season that Bill Belichick drafted him for, with his resting Belichick face out of Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm just going to tweet out, there's another Belichick draft pick. And
oh God, you're just going to be. I love all of those insufferable tweets as well. And listen, as the king of the insufferables, I full well understand and appreciate that game. No disrespect. I'd probably have to agree with you as well. And it's not like I think that there's going to be anybody that's going to be into the major double digits or mid-teens on the sacks this year. Look, if Harold Landry has 8 and Keon White has 9 and Kevon Chasen has 6 and Swinson has 5 and Anthony Jennings has 4 and plays stout run defense like he usually does, that's great. I mean, all right, here we go. People predicting 10 plus sacks for Keon White. All right, I'll put it out there.
And also, this is an element too, Fitzy, where having better play in the secondary, whether that's Carlton Davis or Craig Woodson's part of it, or maybe Kyle Duggar is healthy, you're going to get coverage sacks as well. Like, that's going to be part of. Whereas last year and the year before, especially once Gonzalez got hurt, teams could just chuck and duck and play the quick game all over you, and it was even more difficult to get pressure.
Yeah, it's a completely different. We've mentioned it a few times here, as well as on the afternoon show and beyond. It bears merit, and it needs to be repeated again. The biggest difference, each of these two, there's a reason why They spent so much time and money rebuilding the secondary and rebuilding the defensive line. A good D-line benefits the secondary. Oh, shit, here comes a face full of Milton Williams, Harold Landry, and Keon White. Hope someone's out there. F it. Tyreek Hill out there someplace. Pick for the Patriots. And if you've got Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez and the safeties just absolutely blanketing all of your receivers, your quick outs, your slants, and your downfield X's, and now all of a sudden that gives these guys time to fight their way back to the quarterback. If he's at 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, and no one's open downfield, it's either throw it away or here comes Barmore. Again, like there's a reason I'm so excited to watch this defense. Yeah, I really am, because we don't know what the offense is yet. Johnny and I will get to offensive expectations once Drake May is off his honeymoon, and we'll also break down our expectations, not just for Drake May later on in the podcast, but also we'll get into our expectations for Josh McDaniels and what he's going to bring in his third iteration of offensive coordinator for the Patriots. All right, Johnny, couple more here. Here we go. This is from one of your followers, brought this to the table. How big of a hill this season for Jalen Polk and Javon Baker to make the roster, and how could they positively contribute to the team?
Yeah, well, one thing I don't want them to do is motion into the wing to block again. Alex Van Pelt did that like 10 times, and it worked 0 times last year. So please don't do that. But look, I think if you can get one good player combined out of the two of them, I'll be satisfied. And I'd say the same thing about Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, right? Like if you can get one good player combined out of the two of them, I think they have a pretty big hill to climb. I think Baker has a higher hill to climb than Polk does, because I think Baker is the guy, and we saw this last year in training camp. He'll run a couple 40 or 45-yard post routes. He'll make a deep catch. It's exciting, but then you won't really see much from him for a couple more days. So that's really what I'm looking for, is can you get more consistency out of Baker? I think you'll be able to get more consistency out of Polk. Also, the fact that he was a second-round pick maybe will give him an edge. And this is something, too, Fitzy, you and I were doing the night show on EEI last December. We had Chad Graff on, or maybe it was early January, and he said to us that he talked to people in the front office who still think the 2024 draft was good, and those guys just weren't coached properly. He said that, and the front office believes that, which leads me to believe they're going to give Jalen Polk a little bit of an extra runway here. And even especially, too, if Diggs has to miss 3 or 4 games to start the season, he could have. But I think Baker, to me, as of now, I think he's on the outside looking in. I think Polk is that guy where if they keep 6 receivers, like he's number 6, like, and he's right on the edge. So I think it is a pretty big hill to climb. I have more confidence in Polk to at least climb enough to get on the roster.
Yeah, I have a feeling Polk was just too much equity for them to cut after 1 year. Whereas Baker, I could see as a stash and dash, like, look, kid, you got all the talent, you got all the tools. There's a reason why people thought you were going to be a diamond in the draft rough in 2024. We're going to stash and dash you. Maybe not with an injury designation, the old Foxboro flu. He could just be a cut candidate, and we'll see maybe if they pick him up for the taxi squad. I think Polk makes it as well, just because it's tough to say, oh, the 37th pick overall last year is a complete bust.
Yeah.
He is one of the many that could benefit from the tutelage, from the iron sharpening from Steph Diggs. And I hope he gives him the business this summer. We saw him working with him during mini camp as well. I hope that's a relationship that burgeons just the same way that apparently Pop Douglas and Steph Diggs does. Side note to all that as well, Steph Diggs, the concern people have for Stephon Diggs, I said it on the radio, I'll say it here again, John. You know, sure, he's posting videos of him training in front of castles while he's on vacation with Cardi B and clan over there in France. That's a hard-o move. And, you know, he's someone who loves him, some social media video of him.
Once. I didn't post workout videos. I'm just saying.
Just saying, you know, but you're not that much. You're a football guy, but you're not that much of a hard-o. That said, I'm not worried about Steph Diggs. I'm really not. Yeah. I know I mentioned him as one of my 5 players that's most important heading into camp on our earlier pod this week. I'm not worried. He has veteran mentality. He's got experience. He knows how much he can earn, and he knows how many eyeballs are on him. He loves him some Steph Diggs, and he knows he can be the guy here. And if he elevates Drake May and has another couple big seasons, there are some elevated expectations for him in the long run, talking about NFL contributions for Steph Diggs. So I'm not worried about him taking this seriously or making every contribution he can. so long as he's healthy.
Yeah, I'm not as worried either about like, and don't get me wrong, like if you're, handing out pink powder all the time, that's a problem. But I think as far as on the field and in the locker room itself, I actually think he can benefit that group.
All right, 2 more questions and we out, John. This one from one of our regulars here watching live on Facebook as we record Six Rings and Football Things Friday Summer Mailbag. Gerald A. White wants to know, who do you think is going to be the touchdown leader on these Patriots?
I think it's going to be Hunter Henry. And in 2021, the last time he worked with Josh McDaniels and a young quarterback together, he had 9 touchdowns. I think you could see something like that again. This team I expect will be better in the red zone this year. I think he's going to be a big part of that. And I think all the uncertainty at receiver and your running back is going to be mostly Ramondre Stevenson early, but then Travion Henderson, I think, is going to carve out a bigger role. Plus, you have Antonio Gibson, where he's a tight end. I think it's Henry and a lot of question marks after that. And I know I mentioned Austin Hooper earlier, but I think it's Henry and a lot of question marks. So I think it's Hunter Henry. I think he's going to be a really big part of this offense, especially in the red zone.
ESPN predicted Travion Henderson to be among the leaders in the NFL in rookie touchdowns with 7. Over or under, Johnny?
I'm going to give it a slight under. I think he gets 5 or 6. I don't think he gets, because again, you have Stevenson, you have other guys, that you have Gibson, you have a bunch of different receivers, tight ends. So I think he gets to 5 or 6. I go under 7 though.
Yeah, I 5 and up to me would be significant. I'd be happy with that. 7 does seem pretty lofty, but you know me, I am one of the engineers on the Travion Henderson hype train, man. That little pause you may have heard in the podcast there was for our live viewers to watch Drake May throw an OTA wheel route to Travion Henderson, which he caught over his shoulder and moved so fluidly. I just can't wait to get to camp for so many reasons, one of which is I want to see that speed that everyone talks about being different, game breaking, being not Patriot-like in person. And let's go Broadview for our final question here, John. This one actually from my buddy Chris Brockman, who works over at the Rich Eisen show. Legitimately in the NFL this year, how many teams do you think could actually make the Super Bowl?
That's an awesome question. I would say, and this is just off the top of my head.
Yep. Run them down.
8-ish. I mean, I look at Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, the Rams, the Eagles, the 49ers, like that's 6 right there. I mean, I don't know if I'm missing Detroit, but even Detroit lost both coordinators. I'm a little worried about them. So I'd say 7, maybe that's 7 to 8, right? And who knows? I might be forgetting 1 or 2, but I think that it's in Kansas City, obviously. So I guess that's probably the 8 right there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to run through the NFC first. Philadelphia. If everything pans out for Washington, you can't make the NFC Championship and then just disregard it as, oh, it was a fluke for a first-year coach, first-year coordinator, and rookie QB sensation. They have added to that team. They are greater than right now on paper or computer screen / tablet than they were last year. I'm going to give 2 in the NFC East. I don't know how I feel about any of the teams in the NFC North right now. JJ McCarthy could be a freaking dynamo. And if Jim Harbaugh is right that he's the best quarterback since Tom Brady to play at Michigan, maybe Minnesota takes over an NFC North where Detroit has lost coaches and coordinators and a lot of players. And there are more question marks than there are exclamation points like last season. It's going to take Ben Johnson a while to get Chicago's offense in gear. The Packers win 10 to 13 games every year without even
and they just let Jair Alexander go, which was kind of like
strange.
Has he even been picked up? Yeah, Baltimore signed him. By the way, great signing by Baltimore. But
what a massive signing for Baltimore.
If you're trying to go to the Super Bowl, and I know he's had some injuries, but he's a really good player. Like I don't know. Yeah, I didn't get that one.
Yeah. In the NFC South, none of those teams are going to the Super Bowl.
No, somebody has to win that division, and
someone has to win it. I still say Tampa. We'll see what the Penix clause has to say about things. NFC West.
I think San Francisco, they had so many injuries last year. I think that team's good enough to make the Super Bowl. Now,
what about the Rams though?
I put the Rams
adding Devontae Adams.
Yeah. And that's a team that shout out to Sean McVay and shout out to that front office. Remember, it was F them picks and they had all those guys invested to win 2021. They haven't bottomed out since then. They've been able to find good players in the middle of the draft, use the higher picks they've had. I mean, credit to those guys because I agree, Fitzy. I put San Fran as a Super Bowl contender, but I think the Rams are in that conversation.
Yeah. All right. So let's say 4. We'll say 4 to 5 in the NFC. In the AFC, Baltimore for sure. I'm going to also throw the Bengals in there as well because if Joe Burrow's awake and alive and slinging it, he's always got a shot at the big game. Buffalo. Anybody in the AFC South?
I mean, the only team that would really come to mind is Houston. Like maybe Stroud in his 3rd year. Like I would give them an outside shot. Like, but that's I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know about the Texans yet. I want to see how the two wide
I think
receivers.
the Titans are going to be terrible. The Jaguars can't figure it out.
No, the Colts, no, definite turnaround central.
Colts drafted the wrong guy in the top 5. And
Chiefs for sure.
Yep.
Where are you on the Chargers guy?
So my issue with I'm a huge believer in Harbaugh, and I like Justin Herbert, but they're going to have to prove it to me. They're just going to have to show. I know it's their 2nd year together. That team has come too close and been too perennial in the playoff hunt, early playoff team, to then just bottom out and play poorly when it matters most. I'm going to need them to prove it to me first because there is, Fitzy, a lot to like in LA for the Chargers. I got all these other teams we're talking about, whether it's the Bengals, right, the Rams, they've been to Super Bowls recently, or Baltimore's been in the AFC Championship game recently, Buffalo as well. I just haven't seen it from the Chargers.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with I think I'll go with a ceiling of 10 teams, 10 tops that probably have a shot.
Actually, there's a commenter that says Denver. Like I think they are maybe 1 year away. I'd like to see another year of Knicks, but they're at least knocking on that door, I think.
Marcellus Wiley had them as the most improved defense in the NFL, just above the Patriots as well. They also, who did they pick up? Did they grab Giddens, or which running back did they draft that everybody is saying grab this guy?
I'd have to double check, to be honest.
Or Harvey maybe as well. I know Omari and Hampton was an absolute steal for the Chargers, so I think that is going to be a beautiful compliment as well to go along with my guy Ladd McConkey and of course Justin Herbert on Jim Harbaugh's Chargers as well. I could see Denver making another playoff push as well. Super Bowl ready? I'm with you.
Yeah, I think they're a year away.
Need one more year as well. All right, so there you go, folks. From the questions that we took from the social medias, from everybody watching live, yeah, it was RJ Harvey. Thank you very much, Josie. Appreciate that.
Very fast guy.
Very, very fast guy.
Would like him. Fast guy.
I think he's going to be in a very good spot this year to feed and thrive as well. Appreciate all the questions from social media. Appreciate all the live viewers as well with your comments, some with your criticisms as well. That's all fine. We don't have to be for everybody, but we are here for you whenever you want to talk Patriots, NFL, and so much more on Six Rings and Football Things. We'll keep the Friday mailbags rolling. Of course, next Friday, we're going to take it off so we can observe and appreciate the 4th of July and the greatest.
I'll be on WEI afternoons next Friday, so I'll be busy.
Oh, you will?
Yeah. I'm going to be filling in for Fitzy.
Oh, my God. Wait. Oh, man, those are big shoes.
I know.
Big mouth, big head, too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bring all my big clothes.
I just go to the big store, John, and I think you'll be fine after that. This right here, my buddy, you of course know him, appreciate him and love him wherever you can hear him on the dial, filling in on the holidays, on the weekends as well. Johnny, what's the name of your podcast as well for the good people of Pat's Nation and Six Rings to subscribe to?
So got Six Rings, got plenty of videos on my Instagram and Twitter page. Also do quite a bit of work with the New England Football Journal after every Patriots game and throughout the offseason as well.
And he'll be a regular contributor throughout the offseason, in season as well, on Six Rings and Football Things. And we'll have him on the Six Rings postgame show as well this fall. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys for hanging with us as well. Keep the questions coming for the next mailbag. And until then, enjoy your summer, everybody. Keep cool.